Welcome back to the Unwind podcast. I'm your host, Lucas. I run a couple of agencies, one being a creative agency and another being a TikTok first agency. I also recently started an e-com brand, so very much still on my journey to finding success as an entrepreneur. Now, this podcast is all about meeting with like-minded entrepreneurs and professionals to go deep, have a little bit of fun as well over a drink or two out of office hours. Most business podcasts struggle to do that and are a bit formal and professional and interview-like, and we definitely want to break that and go deeper, have a bit of fun, as well as offer tons of value. So you can find us on Spotify or YouTube at Unwind Podcast. Now let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Unwind. I'm here with Seamus O'Connor, which probably couldn't get more Irish than that.
No.
Seamus, firstly introduce yourself, what you do, and then we'll kind of get into things, shoot the shit, and go through your story, because I think you've got a pretty mad story from when we were at lunch earlier. I learned a lot about, and then I think you can bring fuckload of value to agency owners and e-com owners, because that is your jam. So
Thanks, Lucas, and look, it's great to be here. Who am I? Mightn't look like it, but I'm actually an accountant by trade. And I own a company based in Ireland, but we operate, I suppose, at a global scale, and we specialise in working with e-com brands, agencies, and influencers, so YouTubers, that kind of stuff. And basically what we do is we manage all the finances for them, so the boring stuff like bookkeeping, invoicing, all that kind of basic stuff, taxes. But then we also, do like advisory, revenue growth, systems and processes, just really like helping the business owners take the pressure off them, help them grow. So like, as we always kind of say, like whether you're Amazon or a corner market store, there's three parts to every business, sales and marketing, operations, and finance. And like 9 times out of 10, a business owner is not going to come from finance background.
Yeah.
So put a lot of pressure on them. So we try to come in and fill that gap and are like kind of like a finance business partner, which frees up their time then to focus on, number one, what they're good at, and number two, what they enjoy. Operations, sales and marketing, growing their business. Yeah. And being a sounding board then as well,
Yeah, and Seamus actually has recently come on board. I mean, you kind of position yourself as a fractional CFO in a sense. So Seamus actually has come on recently with Hammy Media. So he's absolutely, he's doing so much for us, opened my eyes to a lot of shit. And we'll kind of get into some of the value that he's offered there later on. Because if you're an agency owner or an e-com brand, which he specializes with, genuinely need to speak to this guy, because he's really changing our business. But as then obviously he's come on at For You Advertising, which is our TikTok agency as well, and also my business partners at that company, Joe and Ollie. Seamus has also come on at Soar with us, their other agency. So he's kind of like fully taken over our sphere triangle of agencies. I'm excited to get into it, because there's a lot of shit you've taught me down the line in terms of like things that I just wouldn't have thought about. Like you say, like a lot of when you're running a business to a certain degree, it's like, it's like the wild, wild west. It's not the first thing you think about. And then it gets to a point where you've got to start working a lot smarter, a lot harder. And I've got a lot of questions that I'm going to ask that I think will give a lot of value to a lot of people. But I guess firstly, let's go back to the start. We spoke a bit about it earlier, but not in detail. So I'm excited to hear about your story, how you kind of started, and what that journey was to how you kind of got to where you are now.
Yeah, it's been a while since actually anyone asked me that way. Cheers. Thanks. I suppose where we go back to the very, very start. Grew up in Ireland, rural Ireland, on a farm. Like a little tiny village, like 600 people. There's probably more people in this building right now than where I'm from. Grew up in a rural family. My granddad was I suppose you call him an entrepreneur. Like he was a farmer, a really, really big farmer. And I think I'm not a person for having regrets in life, but I think one thing I do regret in life is not learning more from him when he was alive. Then went to school, did that whole thing. Had a bit of an entrepreneurial streak when I was a teenager. I think my first was like maybe 11, 12 streaming CDs, flipping them.
Yeah, nice. That's always one of my questions, actually. Like, were you entrepreneurial growing up? 'Cause normally you see those hints, don't you, at a young age, where at the time you're not thinking, I want to be a business person, I want to be an entrepreneur. It's just like ingrained in your DNA.
Yeah. Yeah, I even think there was maybe even a deeper thing, as like a kid or a teenager, like, you're just trying to do everything to fit in and, impress people and, whatever. It's obviously one way to do that. Yeah. That was the first thing. Then maybe 14, 15, I used to import sports gear from Canada and sell it. Was making a really nice margin. I remember one day I bought like 4 for 100 quid, sold them for 100 each.
Fuck.
And then learned a very valuable lesson: don't tell people where your source is. That business lasted about 2 months.
What was it? Just everyone from school?
Yeah, I was
told
telling them,
everyone,
showing
and then
off.
everyone started
It's
doing
like,
it.
yeah, that's my business gone. And then when I did my leaving cert, what's that called here? It's like your exams, like your school exams.
Yeah,
You finish-
GCSEs.
Yeah,
or-
yeah. So when I did them, we were just coming out of that recession in 08, 09, and my dad convinced me to do a degree in like law and accounting. So I did that. Don't regret it. But I suppose once I started doing that throughout college, then went to work corporate for 8 years, I kind of lost that streak. I was like, get my degree, get a good job in one of the big 4 accountancy firms, get qualified, get a nice salary, have a nice life, etc., etc. Did that. Went to work in corporate. I trained in Deloitte. Some of you probably know, some of you don't. They're
Not
like,
easy to fucking get into
no,
somewhere like Deloitte, is it?
no, it was, yeah, loads of interviews and stuff, but got in anyway. Remember, they wanted me to do a master's, because most people, they want to do a master's. I'd already done 4 years of college, and I was just like, no. And they was like, there's one place in the whole country to go direct in. I was like, yeah, well, like, I don't want to do a master's. I was like, I lied. I said I had an offer somewhere else, but I didn't. And I
Fake
said,
it
well,
till
look,
you
that's
make it.
okay. Like, but anyway, they gave me the offer, so I went in, which I didn't want to do a master's because I'd already 4 years of college done. Didn't want to do another year. I wanted to get out. Big believer like in hands-on experience, getting things done as opposed to like, nothing wrong with it, but I wanted to get to work basically. Went to Deloitte. It was a great learning experience, like just unbelievable. Like, don't regret it for a second. I worked in the corporate international tax section, so like working with the likes of Amazon, Disney, Toyota, like doing mergers and acquisitions, cross-border stuff, working with some of the brightest people in the country. It was amazing.
That's
Even my
crazy.
business partner now, Shane, like we met together in Deloitte. We both trained together. So the way it works is you do like 3.5 years of training, do your exams, become a chartered accountant, become a chartered tax advisor. Did that. I think I stayed there for 4.5 years. Wanted a new challenge. Went to work in industry, you'd call it, like, so in-house, I suppose you would say. And worked for 2 large PLCs in Ireland, Kerry Group as one, and the other one was Arista. They were in the food space.
Right.
And then when I was in Arista, I just said I wanted a new challenge, and I said, yeah, look, let's just go for it. I could see the gap there with, business becoming so international the last few years. Like traditionally, a lot of accountants, I suppose you'd be just working with domestic stuff. So we had the international experience. We said, let's just give it a go. We identified e-com and digital marketing and influencers as I suppose a space that needs that, because you can provide services to somewhere in the US, Australia. E-com can sell around the world. You can set up a Shopify store tomorrow and start selling into Jamaica or wherever you want tomorrow.
Yeah.
Understanding that cross-border stuff, and here we are.
Going back to like Deloitte, then how was, because you hear these stories of these fucking these huge companies, and just how intense that environment is. And I mean, what was your kind of mindset going through that, and what was that like working there?
I didn't find it like that, to be honest with you. And I think one of the reasons was we had a very good intake.
Right.
So let's say, for example, maybe 12 of us started together, and if one of us was under pressure, we'd all stay late and help.
Really? Okay.
Nice. There was a good support network there. I think I learned too at a very early stage that, 2 things, you have to stick up for yourself. If someone's pushing work on, like a good tactic I use, let's say you had 2 managers or partners or whatever asking you to do something and it's both urgent, I would just say, well, whatever X wants me to do it too, can you just decide between yourselves which is more urgent, and I'll do that first.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be a good tactic. And then the second thing I learned was don't take anything personally. Somebody could have, just been on a bad call or had something bad, and then they could be a bit short with you, or, you maybe just feel something. Don't take it personally at the end of the day. Just get your job done, work hard, ask for help when you need help. And just if you make a mistake, own it and say, look, I made a mistake. Like, you're only training. What you expect?
Yeah, it's true. So, like, I mean, what was that thought process like? Because I know when you're in probably quite well paid positions, and
Yeah.
to then make that jump, because again, similar, obviously, definitely not as well paid as you would have been, but I was in a big advertising company previously before I started my business 4 years ago. And people kind of asked me that question, but what was that thought process like to actually make that jump to go and do that? And what advice do you have for someone who maybe is watching this now, is in that corporate, is in the rat race, the 9 to 5, and wants to go and make that jump to start their own thing, but doesn't quite have the courage to go and do it?
Don't get me wrong, it's very, very scary. And if you're not scared, something's wrong.
Yeah.
As you say, I think plan for it. Like, don't just turn around one day and go, I'm going to set up my own business and just leave. You know, like, plan for it, save up money, have an exit strategy. You know, maybe start doing a bit on the side so you can get up enough income to support yourself. I would say get rid of any, like, bills you don't need. So, like, when I set up my business, I sold everything I had. Like, I had a BMW, other bits and pieces. I flew out to Marbella, and I literally drove my car to the airport, and I sold it there and hopped on the plane.
Sick. I love that. It's because it's really humble of you to have done that, because I feel like when you get to a level of, you know, probably financial earning, and then you're probably living that lifestyle as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to then. That's why a lot of people don't get out of that situation, because their outgoings, they can't justify them pulling that back, and they don't want to get rid of the materialistic objects that would mean that their outgoings were less. So as a result, they're kind of stuck in this cycle of, you know, month by month having to pay that debt off and having to. Yeah. So it's. I mean, what gave you the strength to go and do that?
I think one thing, my fiance Susan was very supportive of the whole thing, and you know, we talked long and hard about it as well. And I think you just have that feeling, and I think I have a saying, like, you know, I'd rather a life of wells than what ifs. Like, I don't want to look back and go, what if I'd have tried that, or what if I'd have done this or done that. I'd rather go, well, I tried that, it didn't work. You know, you can always go back and get another job. Yeah. Do you know? Especially when you're experienced, qualified. So I said, what's the worst that can happen? You can always buy another car. You know, these things you can replace, but one thing you can't replace is time. So if you know, like, if there's something on your mind that just doesn't shift, you have to try it, because it's not going to go away and you're only going to regret it. Yeah. So my advice would be, like, that's basically it. Like, if there's something's always on your mind, you need to test the water. You need to try it.
And there's no better time, especially if you're in your 20s. If you're, you know, you don't.
I'm not in my 20s.
You were though, right?
I was 30.
Really? Fuck, fair play. Wow, that kind of completely
30.
undermines the point then. But I guess, like, not necessarily age. What I probably more mean by that is, you know, when you get older, maybe people have a mortgage, they have kids, they're married, you know, and then as a result, you're providing for other people, and you can't necessarily take the same risks. But I guess, like, when you don't necessarily have that, that is genuinely the time to fucking try shit.
Big time, because you know, you've more time to come back from it. Definitely, the younger, you know, you do. It's only you know, you don't have to worry about, you say, kids or whatever. Probably makes it 10 times harder. And I was saying, like, if you save and you plan for it, you're giving yourself time and you're giving yourself runway, and that's very important as well. It means you're not going to, like, take on this load of work at the start that you don't want just to pay the bills. Yeah, you can do market. You know, we were chatting about this earlier, like, you know, and this is actually Shane's philosophy, my business partner. Your first, like, year or two is like market research. You know, like, I'd say you're the same, but when you go in day one, the business isn't as it is now as what you'd envisaged. Yeah. You know, you do a bit different pieces of work in different industries with different people, and you kind of figure out what you like and what you enjoy and what's most profitable. I
would even almost say it, like, lasts longer than that, because I feel like for a few years we were, like, pivoting and chopping and changing, and sometimes it's the market dictates whether you have to do that. Interesting. So so you start the business, you know, you're going to niche into e-commerce, you know, digital marketing, influencers, etc. Like, what next? Like, how did you go kind of about growing the business?
I think the number one thing was putting myself in an environment of people that need my support now, if that makes sense. So when we set up the business, the first thing we did was move to Marbella. It was lockdown in Ireland. It probably sounds so pretentious, doesn't it? It was like lockdown in Ireland. You couldn't really go 5 miles from your house, which doesn't make sense because the closest shop is not even 5 miles, more than 5 miles away. And we left Dublin because of COVID and stuff. The business had been running a little bit, but we said let's go. So we went to Marbella, and that's what just changed everything. Met Adam. As you know.
Adam Power, who has been on the pod as well.
Yeah, so met Adam. Stood me up 3 times, to be honest, before I finally had a coffee.
Well,
I was literally, I never told him this, but after the second time I was like, nah, I'm not meeting this guy. But then he said, do you want to grab the coffee? So I was like, all right, let's do it.
That's funny.
Met Adam, met loads of other people down in Marbella, and then we just started to network. And I think, again, because we're kind of living the kind of same lifestyle, or seeing the same challenges, and they're going like, okay, if this guy can run his business from a laptop, I'm sure he can help us too.
Yeah.
So
I think that was very interesting about your approach as well. I had an accountant previously, and again, I actually don't look at. I would never call you an accountant. Like, you're genuinely not an accountant to me, and you don't. Andy's team does that anyway. But like, in terms of what you are, is way more of almost like a financial consultant in many ways, and that fractional CFO. But I think what really, like you say, interested me, and the reason that it was very different to what the cliche stereotype accountant is, an old guy with a fucking briefcase and a shirt and tie, and you were kind of broke every stereotype. And I remember actually on the first call we had together, I think you said something like, if your accountant has, what was it? It was like, if your accountant has files or something in his office, then he's too old for you, or something like that. It basically kind of insinuating that obviously if you're a digital-based business and your accountant is very much physical, that it's not necessarily the right move. And it's so true. Like, my old accountant, I think this is really important for agencies and e-com brands and digital-based businesses, because my old accountant just didn't understand the market or where we were at, and as a result, we missed a lot of opportunities, I think, in the early years. Whereas, where Seamus has come in, he understands those markets. So I think, it's definitely a learning. And I would say to people maybe earlier in their journeys, like, genuinely think about this shit and think about niching with someone who knows those markets, because it really makes a difference. What would you have to say about kind of that side of things? Yeah,
100%. Like, I'm all for niching, no matter what service-based business you're in, because then you can become a specialist in that area. You can know it inside out. Like, if I don't know, a mechanic came to me and asked me to do their books, I'd be terrible.
Yeah,
I'd be absolutely terrible. Whereas what we do is we focus on, I suppose, what we know and what we're experienced in, and then we can apply our knowledge to that. So I think if you're an agency or as any service-based business, become an expert in your field, because then you can charge higher prices. There's less risk of making a mistake because you're pretty much an expert in that area, and then your marketing becomes much more targeted as well.
Yeah.
So again, we're 100% like all for niching. It doesn't make sense to me to be otherwise, to be honest. And then even like your systems and your processes, you can standardize them.
Yeah.
You can make them more efficient. You can stay up to date with the latest tech. It's just a no-brainer to be honest.
Yeah. So talk a bit about, because one thing I found interesting, and again, we've spoken about this quite a lot, is your approach as, a service provider and, in terms of a consultant going above and beyond. Talk about your strategy there, because, I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah. It's just I love what I do, to be honest. I love providing value. I was never one to I don't like the whole compare on price or whatever, or challenge on price, because then you just become a commodity. So we're just obsessed with value. Like, how can we provide value for our clients? Like, what are our clients' challenges? What are their problems? And how can we provide a solution to that? And you're all working in the same direction. And I think the biggest thing there is just listen to people. I always see it you're talking to someone, just waiting to respond.
Yeah.
Just wait, chomping at the bit. You just sit there and listen, because people just want to be heard. So if you're an agency or whatever business you're in and you're talking to someone, just sit there and listen. Don't feel like you want to get the answer out. Listen to them. And then you'll see the nuances. You'll see what their problems are. And then you can kind of articulate a solution in your head and say, okay, well, look, repeat it back to them. Okay, so your problem seems to be this and this. Okay, yeah. Well, look, then we can do this and this to fix it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then if people feel heard, they're going to want to work with you. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think it's so true. Like, going above and beyond, and just showing you care, and it's just, it's not just another number. I think what I quite like about the way we, how we speak is when you talk about my business, you say, I think we should do this. I think we should do. It's not like you should. It's like, this is our thing. And it's like, there's that kind of joint involvement of, that you're really part of it rather than just, us outsourcing a service to you. It's much more than that. So, that's interesting.
But I think you need to feel like that. Like, I wouldn't want to work with someone that doesn't care about me. Yeah. And I always take a personal interest in both the businesses I work with and the founders and the teams. Because, like, I'll be honest, like, I don't like accounting. I don't like tax. But what I absolutely love is building businesses and helping people build businesses and helping founders meet their goals. And I always use the analogy, like, I used to play football as a kid. And I used to play, like, midfield. And I actually got more joy out of, like, assisting goals and, than actually scoring myself. So I love being part of that team and love being part of it. I prefer actually being part of it and help and not actually just getting the success myself, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So on that note then, what are some of, obviously you've worked with a lot of agencies and e-com brands, what would you say is when you start working with a business or when you do an audit of a business, you recently did a financial review of both Hammy Media and For You. I mean, what are some of like the common issues that you see that, are quick wins for people or things that people watching this can look out for if they're don't necessarily have a fractional CFO or someone who's dealing with that?
There's loads. Again, it's going to be different for agencies and e-com. So e-com, for example, like transaction fees, looking at, are you charging the right VAT in the right countries? Because that's something you don't want to get wrong, you know. Customs duties, supply chain, payment processors, bank accounts, fulfillment. We'll come in and do a full overview of it and see where we can get synergies. Like, we can save, let's say if you're a low 7-figure e-com brand, like we can come in and probably save, tens of thousands in the first year by just these small little strategies we have. With our payment processors, raising financing, we can get a couple $100K within a week basically for people through like Wayflyer and other different, service providers. So that's the thing on the e-com. Then in agencies, it's like systems, processes, accounts receivable, billing.
Yeah, Seamus is looking at me like that because that with both the agencies, that is like one of the problems currently with both of them. It's probably out of all of the potential problems one of the best to have, I guess, because at least you're bringing the business in. It's just about making sure it gets paid efficiently. So on that then, like what can people, because again, it's, if someone's watching this and they're setting up a business, people, I overthought the whole, tax and finance side, and I wasn't necessarily, and why would I be, right? I was a creative. Why would I know finance? What are some key things just anyone watching this can, potentially implement or think about at least in those early stages to maybe save them problems later on down the line?
I think just find someone you trust to work with. Like, I'm a big believer in focus on what you're good at and what you enjoy, and then outsource the rest, if you can afford it. And if you can afford it, read up on it, get knowledgeable about it, speak to other people in your space. Because and a lot of people say this, I remember Stephen Bartlett said in a podcast, I think it was actually Stephen Bartlett and Ben Francis podcast, and he goes, Stephen asked Ben, if you could have done one thing, to help Gymshark earlier on, what would it have been? And he said, get someone in on the finance side really, really quickly, because if you don't, you're kind of making decisions based on emotion, you're shooting in the dark. Whereas if you someone on the finance team, we spoke about hiring staff and, can we afford this, and margins and cash flow and stuff. If you have someone that understands finances, they can look at it very, very quickly and say, yeah, you'll be absolutely fine. You're making decisions with confidence.
Yeah.
And to do that, you need someone by your side that can do it, because, what have I, over 10 years experience, you can't buy that from a book.
No.
And we just get an intuition, we can just look at stuff and just know whether something's up or not and fix it and have strategies. And even the network effect you get, the network we've built throughout the years, we might know the answer, but by God, we know somebody that does.
Yeah.
That takes all the pressure, away from the founder and the business owner, like yourself. And what you would pay for, if you're a scaling agency, what you would pay to have someone by your side, like a finance business partner, is a fraction of the cost of one, you getting it wrong, and number two, that time you could have spent on biz dev or delivery or something else that's revenue generating.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned network then. That's something we've touched on before. You've obviously got a pretty nuts network. Talk about that. Like, how have you built? I mean, I know it's difficult sometimes. I couldn't really pinpoint how I've built my network, but I mean, what advice there do you have for people that are maybe starting out or early days or don't necessarily have a network? What have you done? How have you got yourself into situations to build that?
It's a very good question. A few things. I think be a good people person and don't be afraid just to go up and say hello. Like, I won't lie, like when I was in Marbella, if I saw someone in the gym or whatever and I know they were a business, I just go up and say hello.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. Someone actually told me, just on that note, sorry to interrupt, but that one of the great way to network is to be a part of the best gym.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know that the best people, the high achievers, the people that want to invest most in their fitness, normally that's tangible to someone who is successful or a business owner or, so yeah, I mean, that was just quite an interesting point. I thought, picking your gym based on just building a network.
Just go and say hello. Second thing, I suppose, be a person of value or a person of interest, because if you've interesting stories or can bring something to the table, people are going to want to listen to you. I think number 3 is, like, you don't know who you're talking to, so always be open. And I told you the 2 stories earlier about how I met Andy and how I met Lewis. So basically,
do you want to touch on that? Because I think it's a good story.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah,
it's like very much. It's just these kind of stories blow my mind, because it's like it's like the butterfly effect, I guess. The small little thing doesn't happen, then it changes the whole trajectory of the rest of your life. So,
So I suppose the first one, Andy also works with us as well. Andy owns a firm in the UK, a really cool guy, and we partner up and stuff. And basically how me and Andy met was we were at a golf tournament, the Dunhill Links in Scotland. It's like a pro-am, so the pros play with amateurs. So like Rory McIlroy could be playing with his dad, and Padraig Harrington would be playing with JP, etc. I think it was like the Friday, me and 2 of my mates were walking around, having a few beers, started lashing rain, and there was no buses back to Dundee. And my friend Ali just asked the steward while we were walking out, is there any way back to Dundee? And she was like, no, not for like 2 hours. So this guy overheard us and was like, I'm driving back to Dundee, I'm on my own, do you guys want to spin? We were like, okay, thanks, fair play. So anyway, I got chatting, really nice guy. He was saying he owns an accountancy firm in the UK. And we said, okay, do you want to go stop off in St Andrews, get you some lunch for like being so sound, have a beer? He's like, yeah. He didn't have a beer, he did 0, by the way. If anyone's watching.
For legal purposes.
Half a bottle of vodka. And then we went back to Dundee, and he was like, one of our clients is like a brewery, we go and have a few beers? And we're like, yeah, let's go for it. And ever since then we actually stayed in touch, helped each other. This is before I had the business now. He's actually always pushing me to do it.
He started his business?
He had started. He had done it himself, and his dad set it up, I think, in 2017. Ashton McGill, by the way, if anyone wants to check him out. Really good business. So we kept in touch. He kept pushing me, do it. Was very supportive, him and his dad. And we've just, become business partners. We do lots of work together. Just genuine nice guy. And again, that was all because of, he just said, do you guys want to spin? Like, and then the second one was we were over in Maribel in France. Last year, and we were just the Folly Douche. I'm sure some of you know it. We were just sitting outside, me and my Mrs. Susan, just having a beer, and this guy and girl come up and are like, "Can we join you?" We're like, "Yeah, of course. Sit down, have a beer, relax." Anyway, that was Lewis and Kate. Lewis owns Druids Golf, like amazing business. Had a few beers, led a few shots. Got absolutely wasted. Good times. But again, we just stayed in touch. And when we were in Marbella, we went, there's a place down there, I went to see him, went fishing. And we're meeting him again now in a few weeks over in Dubai. We just became really good friends, and we're in a similar industry. So again, just talk to people, be open.
And I say this every time that I have this conversation on the podcast, but as well, just don't be like a stiff. Don't be a stiff person who is too much with a motive in mind. I feel like if you've got like a motive and you're like, okay, networking, I'm here for one thing, to get something out of this, then like it's never going to happen. I feel like the best relationships I have built is when I haven't expected anything in return, and I've just gone into something saying, okay, I could come out of this with a friendship, or a good have a good conversation with someone. And if even better than that, if you can offer free value, or like you said, anything of value, it really then goes the extra distance. And I feel like some of the best relationships I've been with people that were way ahead of me in their careers, because I was able to actually offer them something of value without anything expected in return. I think that's the issue. Sometimes it's like when you offer value but you kind of expect something back, you need to just do it at the goodwill of your heart, and good things will happen when you don't expect that in return. Big time.
And another thing is put yourself in places where the chances of meeting someone like that is high. For example, being in Marbella was perfect for us, because ecom business owners were there. We've even as T-shirt Carpiam, the John and Michael were down there. We had loads of clients that were down there, and again, it's just meeting people in person. I said, not expecting anything. I think even when we first met, linked up, it was let's just have a chat.
Exactly.
Not even sales.
There was no sales techniques there, was there? It was literally just, and then you didn't that was the thing. It was kind of we spoke about you potentially coming on as fractional CFO, etc. But then you didn't have any kind of follow-up tactics or chasing me. It's, it's like, if this is meant to happen, it will happen.
Yeah, again, that's it. Don't force it. And just by speaking to people and networking and not trying to salesy, you can kind of communicate the value you bring or what you do without trying to sell, I think. And that's our tactic. Just talking to people, explaining what we do, the value we bring, tell stories, and then people just kind of want to work with us. And that's our sales tactic. I don't know, is that just intentional or is it just my nature? But I don't like trying to sell with intent. I like to meet people, see what their challenges are, and then I love just providing solutions.
Love that. It's kind of, we made a shift more so like that with our sales strategies, as it were. Obviously it's slightly different in the agency space, a bit more salesy, but we kind of changed our strategies from having a discovery call with a potential client, just shoving a service down their throat without knowing what their problems were. We then, it needs to be, if you're going to help a business, that's the whole point of a discovery call. You need to make sure that, firstly, what your client avatar looks like. So what are their problems? What is the solution to those problems? What are their potential objections? What is their, situation that they're currently in that your product or your service could be a solution to? So it's very much about digging, finding out the problems, and whether then you're a solution to that problem or you are able to build a solution to that problem. Because it just doesn't work otherwise. If you're on a call with someone and they're saying that they're getting incredible revenue, but their content, they want to grow their brand awareness, but you're an ad agency that focuses on bottom of funnel, then what are you trying to sell to them? That's something it really helped us when in terms of the sales side.
We have a 2/3 stage process for discovery calls or leads, and the first one we never give a price. The first one we try to do 80-90% of listening, and there's two reasons for that. As you said, the first thing is we're trying to get an understanding of what this person's problem is or their challenges, and is that really their challenge, or is it something deeper or something else? And we also do it to screen people. If all they're asking for is about price, to me they're just price shopping, and we never compete on price. We are more expensive, but we provide more value. We never compete on price because I'm the kind of person, right, where I have to give people everything. If you get my point, if I see something needs to be done, I'm not going to go, oh, they're not paying me for that, I'm not going to do it. That's just not me. I'd rather do it for them. I don't care if they're not going to pay me, but just consciously I just have to do it.
It's so true. That's why it's so important in the way that you structure a sales call or presentation or deck or pitch or whatever, that you sell the value first. So they're bought into the value, so the price doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, you see, we used to even do that, where when you're pitching, you know, you bring in price too early, or they ask about price too early, and then they're not thinking about the value because they just know the number. But, you know, you need to make sure that you sell them on everything before that point.
And just also show it, like results, stories, you know, social cred, just prove you can do it. And then that's kind of our sales strategy.
Yeah. So talk a bit about, you know, you do a bit, would you call it angel investing? Like, what would you do a lot of investing now, you know, equity in brands, things like that. Talk a bit about that side of your career, because I think it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it probably sounds more fascinating than it is. As I said, like, I love building things, and I love seeing other people succeed too. So, you know, a lot of people like in the e-com space would be, you know, quite young, and you know, we love providing mentorship and guidance, and then sometimes, you know, they need financing. So, you know, we can provide that as well, whether it's, you know, like finance, like debt, so loaning in some money, or whether it's equity investments. You know, we can come in for a piece of equity, and then as part of that, then we would give financing, and then we would give our services then, you know, at a discount, at cost price effectively, so we can help grow things together. So that's what we do right now. Plan to scale that out now over the, you know, the next few years, because I just do think it's the e-com world is just booming right now. So yeah, and then there's a really good team there, and we try to scale it out. Like, we've just brought on one person now, Charles, to run one of our investments. Like, he was working in Clearco. They just like pulled their Irish and US operations. There was like 50 people in Ireland. They just got let go, which is obviously quite sad. But yeah, Charles has come on board, which is brilliant. Just growing a team, growing businesses. It's fun, man.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, for me, like, that's literally the main reason I started a business. Money aside, genuinely, I loved this idea of like building something bigger than me, that I'm part of something with other people. I think for me that was so important. I never wanted to be like a one-man band. I wanted to be this thing where we built a family of people that had great culture, that, you know, were doing something together that, you know, was, like I said, bigger than myself. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, like, I think people ask me, like, you know, what's the best part of it, like, and there's obviously loads of pros, loads of cons too, don't get me wrong. It is tough, like, but I think the biggest thing is, like, just the people you meet and how varied things are. Like, even just sitting here today, like, what even day is today? Is it like Tuesday, sorry.
Doesn't feel like a Tuesday.
Like a Tuesday evening having a beer, like, with you, like, it's kind of hard to believe. Even, like, was it a few weeks ago, we did lots of work with Wayflyer, and like, they invited me over to London for a day to go, like, have lunch with Shane Lowry and, you know, and Wentworth, and it's just like, what, like,
yeah,
why am I even here, you know?
Yeah, so true. And it's hard to get in those situations if you don't fucking actually love what you do. It's hard. You can't really fake it for that long. Like, you can get so far, but the person that actually loves it is gonna outwork you. And, you know, like you said, I mean, you made an interesting point that you think, you know, in the current climate, we're gonna see a lot of agencies, you know, fizzle away. Talk a bit about that.
Yes, so, like, you know, there's a lot of maybe weird feelings in the market right now, with talks of recessions, inflations, everything that's going on at a macro level globally. But I think, as we were saying earlier, like, you know, and it comes back down to niching. Like, if you're the best at, or not the best, because that's very subjective, but like, if you're really, really good at what you do and an expert in a specific field, there's always going to be work there, because the cream does, you know, rise to the top. So, you know, that's obviously very, very important there, and that's again another reason why, you know, I believe in niching and being in that area, because, like, and then you've got that growth mindset too, because let's say you put 20 accountants in a room, and they're all general accountants, they're all competition. But if you put 20 accountants in a room, one's e-com, you know, one is retail, like brick and mortar, one is food and beverage, one is, you know, we're not in competition, so we can help each other and share experiences, and just, you know, everyone wins. Like, clients win, accountants win, the market wins. Like, it just makes sense.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I kind of want to touch on a few things, just almost because, and I'm, you know, obviously I've got that series when shit hits the fan. I'm happy being as open and honest with, to to an extent, with everyone that, you know, as I can. And I feel like that's the content people resonate most with. So I almost want to like talk about some things that have been big learnings for me since working with you that I didn't really necessarily realize, because I think there's a lot of value there. So obviously I've got a creative director in the company, who obviously we and other members of the team that we've wanted to look to bring in like a share scheme or give equity to, etc., etc. And again, this has happened for you as well. And obviously I won't go into too much detail about it, but what we didn't realize is the further you go through a business and you try and, transfer shares over to someone else, the tax implications are pretty crazy. And I thought you could just I was probably very ignorant to it. I thought you could just click your fingers, transfer the shares, and that's it. No, everyone's happy. It's obviously very different to that. So talk a bit about that, because I think people can get a lot of value from that. And also then from the EMI side, why that is EMI scheme, what that is and why that's a great option for people. And genuinely, this is really valuable.
Yeah. So basically, like if you're growing your business, definitely. Yeah. I'm Irish. As your business is growing, and you want to bring people on board and give them equity, and it's brilliant to give people equity because, then they feel part of the team, and they're going to row even harder for you and row in behind you. And I think it's actually you said to me, Lucas, you'd rather have, was it 70% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape or something? What's stupid
I think it was you'd rather have a slice of the watermelon than a whole grape. Ollie from Saw taught me that one actually.
Oh, good man, Ollie. But if you're gonna give people shares and the value of your business is going up and up, there's tax implications for that. There's income tax for the person getting them, because again they're getting something of value. And if you're ever moving assets or doing anything like that, make sure you get advice, because rightly so, HMRC or the Irish Revenue, they're going to want to have a cut of that. So it's just about, I suppose, knowing your strategy and your long-term plans early, and speaking to someone that understands it and knows and can help you plan for it. That'd be, the first thing. There's different things, like even putting a holding company in place. So basically that means you don't own the shares in your company directly. You own shares in another company that owns the shares in your business. That also can be very important from an early stage for tax release when you go to sell the company. So there's release in place, let's say in Ireland and the UK, that if a company sells shares in another company, there's no tax on that.
Yeah.
So all your cash is tied up in your, let's say, holding company, we call it. I'd rather have $1 million sitting in my holding company than 600k personally, because I had to give 400k to the tax man. It gives you more, because you can take that cash, you can invest in real estate. You can drip feed out dividends over time. There's different things you can do. It just gives you more flexibility. And then in terms of the EMI scheme, there's loads of schemes out there to promote business. EMI scheme being one, which is a great scheme. And that's a scheme basically where you can give your staff share options. So what a share option is, you're not giving them the share today, but you're giving them the option to buy that share at a future date, but based on today's price. So let's say you're scaling your business and you sell it in 3, 4, 5 years down the line, where it's worth a massive multiple as it is today. Your employees still get all the upside of that, with no tax having to be paid now. And they also get preferential tax treatment when they sell their shares. Yeah. So it's a great scheme. So if you are someone listening and you're interested in kind of that, speak to your accountant or hit us up, or in fairness, it won't be me, it'll be Andy. He knows much better.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting, looking at it like that, because obviously you're not buying the equity up front. It's as long as there's an exit there, or you could obviously sell it back at a later point if you wanted to, I'm guessing.
Well, it's much less risky, because let's say if you're in the employee shoes, you're not paying any tax now, but you can, be part of the upside. But let's say, obviously we never understand, but let's say the business fails, or, it don't get that exit. If you paid the tax up front, you'd be pretty pissed off,
Yeah.
Whereas if you do the EMI scheme, you don't pay anything, so you don't actually lose anything other than the potential gain that you wanted to get.
Yeah.
So, and it just comes back to speak to people in the know. It drives me mad when someone comes on a call and they're like, "Oh, I read this online, or I read that, or I researched it, and I was like, why? You've just wasted your time for no reason.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to, again, valuing your time. You know, you
And
need
as
to value
well,
your
I
time.
feel like it's like it's made more complicated and written in a way that's more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like when you explained everything to me, I mean, we kind of went through it last year. We spent a lot of money with lawyers and stuff, and but yeah, it's so true. And I think like I do think it's genuinely the one area that it's so true. Outsource it as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Because it's you know, I got a friend that's running a business and he's still doing his own VAT returns.
It's crazy.
And it's just like mind-boggling. And this kind of is a good segue actually onto a topic that we were talking about, you know, looking at your time. You know, time is money, that kind of old phrase. You know, we were talking, I'm going through a bit of a journey at the moment of like looking how I can audit and optimize my time better. Because I was doing things, you know, Andy and I were at lunch earlier and we were talking about it, and like I've got a barber that I have who I won't go to anyone else. I've had him for years. He's a good mate of mine. Like we've been away together. You know, he's sick at what he does more than anything, because if he was my mate and he didn't cut my hair well, like I would not be my barber. So that obviously didn't make a difference. But he's just cut my hair for years. I don't trust anyone else with it. I think I was scarred when he was away one year. I had to get my hair cut at a different barber, and they just a day before my holiday just fucked up my hair. Like I asked for a like a fade up, and they just gave me like a 0.5 the whole way up. And I had like this back fringe, and it was fucking terrible. But the point was, every 2 to 3 weeks I go to his, which back where I live originally, family home, Greater London. I'm more central now. So it'd be like a good 2-3 hours out of my day every 2-3 weeks just getting my hair cut. And again, you don't really think of that. You're like, 2-3 hours, it's not really much. But if you think about your time and, you know, what the value of that, that's it adds up, doesn't it? Yeah. So I've been looking at, you know, that, the amount of, you know, the amount of time it takes me to make food and all of this kind of stuff. So I've, you know, been able to, I'm looking at kind of getting my barber to come to mine. I've just started a meal prep service, which is a game changer for me. You know, you don't even have to think about food. It's like within minutes you've just got a nice meal cooked for you. I mean, talk a bit about that from your side. And
it's crucial, especially as a business owner, especially if you're scaling. You need to put a value in your time, and some people even go crazy and they're like, my 1,000 quid an hour, like they wouldn't be able to charge that, but they value their time so much. And again, like you're like me, you love to read, listen to podcasts, learn from others. They all say like smart people buy time, you know, buy time back. And it's not just for time that, you know, you can use to put back into your business. It's time to, you know, spend with your family and your loved ones, because as we all know, running a business like does take its toll. So that helps with that balance. And also your relaxation, your recovery time, you need that too to be top of your game. You know, you definitely do. So yeah, like just those small things. Like again, I do the same. Meal prep, that is such a game changer, man.
Yeah.
Like it's so good. Like you get your meals delivered, you put them in the microwave. It's got two benefits. Number one, you know, it's time. But number two, you know, looking after like your mental and your physical health is crucial as a business owner.
Yeah, fact.
And like getting those meal preps, you know, getting to the gym, getting your walks in, it just all plays a part in your success, really.
Yeah. And on that note, actually, because, you know, again, this is probably quite open of me, but probably too open sometimes. But but again, I was thinking about that the other day, and it's like, why do we pay for a gym membership every month for our physical health? Yeah. But then it's like not the norm to go to therapy or do stuff that trains your mind more. You know, it's almost like it's not seen as the same thing, but if anything, it's almost as important, if not more, as important as your physical. So with that in mind, you know, I've had therapy in the past, but I've actually decided to go back to therapy and, you know, invest a certain amount, you know, go an hour every couple of weeks to a therapist that I know, who we actually did some work for a while ago. And that's not necessarily because I have mental health issues, because I don't. But, you know, I think there's definitely things I want to unpack about myself, and that, I think it's important to have that time and, to work on things and train your mind and become a stronger person mentally as well as physically. So that's also something that I'm looking to do and optimize in the coming weeks.
Like, fair play. Like, you're dead right. Like, that should be normalized. Like, like, especially as a business owner, or a high pressure job or whatever it is, there's a lot of mental strain. I think that goes back as well to your network, your support network, having people in the business, and like even having this as someone on the finance side too helps relieve that strain, because you can have someone you can turn to. And I think another good thing is, like, we're also running a business, so it's not just the accounting side, but even like a sounding board or even general commercial stuff. Like, it's very, very important to look after yourself, man. Especially like therapy, whatever, like, it should be done. And prevention is better than cure. Just because you go and get counselling or see someone, it doesn't mean you have a problem.
Yeah. And I think business owners should literally double down on it more, because I feel like when you're so engrossed in your business, you might not even realize something until you have that breakdown, or you crash, or you've worked too hard for too long and then it kind of hits you. We both kind of said that every few months we just have a crash and we realize we need to pull back for a little bit. And it's so true. Like, when you're so engrossed in the business, you don't really think about these things, and your kind of mental and physical health gets kind of shoved to the side a bit sometimes.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to awareness too. Like, I have a PT, Podge, and he knows, like, maybe every 8 to 12 weeks he'll get a message from me and I'll be like, I'm burnt out this week, and we just take a break.
Yeah.
But I can almost feel it coming, and I just know, you push, and like, yeah, it's probably unhealthy, to be honest, but like, I just don't think we can help ourselves. But I think if you just know it's coming and you can see the triggers, whether it's, finding it hard to sleep, lack of energy, whatever that is, maybe, mental health decreasing a little bit. If you're aware enough about yourself and you know something is coming and you can just hit the brakes and take a break, I think it's a little bit more manageable. But you can't do it long term. Like, this hustle culture, like, no, like, it's good to work hard, but not to the detriment of your, like, no. And like, we've done it, like, we've stopped working with people that have had an impact. Like, no money or no clients or no title or whatever you want to call it is worth your mental health. And I mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah, fact. Yeah, like, we're taking a client to court currently who put us through a lot of mental strain and was fucking awful to us. And it's great when you get to a point in business, like you've said, you drop clients all the time that just aren't the right fit for you, or just don't treat you guys right and things like that. And we're at the same point now where we can do that, because it's so true. You never want to be at the mercy of your clients. No. It's just not worth the monetary value in the short term. And I feel like, that mental capacity that takes up, investing that into something else would probably 10x in the future, rather than holding on to that dead wood.
Yeah, big time. I use it like the pick up the phone test. Like, if your phone rings and you look at it, you've got like that instant thing. Do you want to answer this? Yeah. And if that's a no to me, like, I wouldn't want to work with people like that. So you're better off just being honest and said, like, it could be my fault. Like, it's no one's fault. It's just, there's so much work out there. Like, one of my mentors said to me before, Gary, he's a brilliant tax advisor from Ireland. Myself and Shane were on a call with him, and he was like, guys, we're the scarce resource here. So, if you're back to the thing, if you're niching and, you're premium and you're an expert in your field, you can afford to do that. And, sometimes you need to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. I think a lot of people get caught in that. Then they get overworked. Then they don't have time to work on their overall business processes and their strategies. And then they get into this like rat race or this vicious circle that they just can't get out of. Yeah. Then they don't enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, it makes complete sense. Yeah, I mean, getting into that then, I mean, what have you, in terms of how you, because again, it's really overwhelming. People don't talk about it, but like, it fucking is overwhelming running a business, isn't it? Like, and you kind of become thick-skinned to it. But even I'm learning to manage that, especially now there's 2 businesses. And how, what's your kind of journey been like on learning how to manage running your own business? Have you had ups and downs there? What kind of things have you kind of maybe brought into consideration, or strategies to be able to deal with that?
Yeah, like, I think maybe 3 or 4 days ago, was under pressure, and I was like, oh, is this even worth it? Like, I think it's always ups and downs running a business. Like, if
you're questioning shit every few
every
months.
day, it's like, what
is it all
what am I
worth it?
doing? I think that the biggest thing is having a strong support network, and like, I could not have a stronger support network, like between Susan, my business partner Shane, Andy. Like, just talk about it. Like, I was under a lot of pressure this week now, and I just sat down with Andy. I was actually in their office in Dundee, and I sat down with him for a half an hour on Sunday, and I just told him what was going on. I had Susan as well, and they just gave such good, helicopter view advice.
Yeah.
And we got through our shit, like. So it's having a support network there, and just talking to them, and not being afraid to be vulnerable or be upset or be honest. Because, like, if you're running a business and you're not feeling the pressure, number one, you're not pushing hard enough, or number two, you just don't care.
Yeah.
Because if you care about your clients and care about your work, you're going to be under pressure at times. You're going to be stressed, especially early days. When you're scaling and you're growing and you're learning, it is pressure, but it's about having people to understand, you can turn to, you can talk to. And the biggest thing as well, not the biggest thing, but another very important thing is having mentors and having people you can turn to. So I was saying, like, we had this massive issue there with one client this week, and I was able to get on a call the next day with, like, one of our mentors in Ireland, like Gary, in his 50s, like a tax advisor. And he was able to tell me what to do and got it all sorted, and it was like a weight lifted.
Yeah. How do you find, because again, I've got a mentor, and I'm very lucky to have that person, because he's very high up in a company doing silly money a year. Like, I'm talking like $4 billion a year money, and he's running a 800-person sales team, absolutely killing it. I'm very lucky to have him as a mentor who I can speak to if I have an issue or a problem. People kind of ask me this question, but like, how do you find those mentors? Because you mentioned that as well, about having one.
How do you find them? That's a very, very good question. Like, any mentors I have, it's just been like either through work or networking.
Exactly.
Like one was like my old hurling trainer. He runs a successful business in Dublin, like mechanical engineering. Again, like, and don't forget, like, you've a lot to give them too. Like, I'm a big believer in, like, having friends, like, across all age groups. So, like, if you have friends, like, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, like, whilst you learn so much from them, they can learn a whole lot for you. Like, one of our mentors, like, their bookkeeping was a mess. So Shane's looking after it for them. So, like, they're like blown away by what he's doing. So it's like, remember, you're a person of value too. So give back, and don't just like expect and take. See how you can help them. Whether it's, they might want to go for a coffee, they enjoy it. Whether it's digital, like, is there anything you can do, to help them too, and make that relationship, I'm gonna butcher this word now, reciprocal.
Fucking hell.
Whatever that is.
You're testing me now.
Yeah, whatever that word is. Basically, not just take. Give back too. Because what you find is, with these people that are like just, amazing people, they get to the stage in their life that they want to give back. And you listen to what they say too, because again, I do this too. Like, if someone comes to you for help, right, and you tell them what to do and they don't do it, like, why would you waste your time a second time? It's like, you come to me for my advice, I tell you what to do, you don't do it, and you come back again. I just feel my time is worth more than that. So
100%.
if you're speaking to a mentor and they tell you what to do, just do it. Like, trust them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, I'm making sure I'm typing away, making so many notes whenever we chat. So yeah, exactly. So obviously, a part of what you do as well, and we've spoken about it, is helping brands get to that point of an exit. I mean, what advice do you have just for any business owners watching? What can they do in terms of now in the next few years to set up their business in the best possible way for that exit?
Systems and processes. Because think of it, like, if someone's coming in to buy your business and the business is centered around you as a business owner, you're going to get a very terrible multiple if you even get a sale, because you're out the door, Whereas if your business is built that it can run without you, that's a winner. So standardization, SOPs, like, what do you do better than anyone else? Can it be replicated? Can you literally hire someone in the morning and they can do the job for you? Having your books in order, so getting someone into finance, because You know, you can run reports like, you know, to click a button, we can see what our margin is, you know, revenue per client, you know, net margin, gross margin, you know, billings per FTEs, you know, whatever we want, we have it.
Yeah.
So, you know, when someone comes in to look at you, you know, they're going to do a due diligence. You know, first impressions matter. If they come in and they see like everything is ship shape, you've had someone from a finance perspective in from early days, like it's just going to put their estimation of you, you know, way higher. So yeah, there's loads of strategies, but systems, processes, on top of your finances, understand your business, understand your market, understand your margins, get your margins better than industry norms, understand your why, like, you know, the value you bring, have good clients. You know, there's loads of different things. Like if you just take a second and think about it, like it makes sense.
The margins thing is an interesting topic because obviously it's really hard to balance that and know that, because obviously if you're aggressively scaling, and we've spoken about this, I'm like, where, you know, fairly healthy profit margins now, but you know, where is really could we go to, you know, if we were scaling in to maybe lose a bit of that bottom line in the short term. It's really hard to like know what that looks like when you're trying to, I guess, scale quicker. You're always going to lose a bit of that. I mean, what are your kind of thoughts there? Let's look at it from, because it's obviously very different, e-com to agency. Yeah. From an agency perspective to me, because I know you gave some good advice about that, you know, and for others listening maybe, what kind of thoughts do you have there?
Yeah, it's a very good point. I remember this conversation, like you asked me, what's a good margin? And I was like, well, it depends, like, you know, what stage of your business are you at? Like, are you trying to scale? Because the higher your margin, the less money you're reinvesting back into your business. Agency perspective, like the biggest thing is people. Like no matter what business you're in, like the most important part is people. Hardworking, trustworthy, capable people, like, you know. So it's getting that balance right. So, you know, it's building up a healthy cash reserve that gives you enough runway. It's, you know, are you at a stage of aggressive, you know, scale and growth? Are you at a stage of consolidation? Are you, you know, for example, like, do you know you're going to be getting rid of a big client for whatever reason, so you know revenue's going to dip, like, you know, are you a bit more defensive? You know, it does depend situation. You know, that's why it's important to have someone by your side that you can turn to for advice. But if you're scaling, like, you know, if you're breaking even and your cash flow is healthy and you have a bit of runway and you're growing, what's wrong with breaking even? You know, don't I think you can't get obsessed with, you know, the perfect margin, or just because I was gonna say Joe, but I'm not gonna say Joe, but like, let's say if Mark down the road is doing like 30% and I'm doing 15%, you know, Mark's better than me, but Mark's revenue might be flat, whereas you could be increasing 5% month on month. I'd rather be in your position. Yeah,
for sure. And obviously, looking at the For You advertising side, obviously we did our financial review with you yesterday, and what was quite interesting, obviously, that we've had some quite quick growth with that business in the agency space, but then as a result, you can't just constantly be growing like that. You need to, we're now almost like at a point where we have to actually slow down and stabilize, relook at our SOPs, because I feel like when you're growing at scale, what may have worked and what your processes and systems that worked at a 30k revenue aren't going to necessarily work at 150k revenue, because you're at higher volume, higher scale, etc. So you need to like almost rework that and like fix any of the current bottlenecks in that system.
Yeah, I guess playing the long game. I always use the analogy like building a house. You know, you build the foundations, you know, perfect. That's when you're starting out. Then you build your walls on the first floor. You know, if you're scaling too quick, you're going to build the walls on the second floor without, you know, building the second level foundation. The whole thing is built on a house of cards. You know, it's going to crumble. So you need to play the long game. You know, there is such a thing as growing too fast. You know, we have none of our clients, but, you know, we've seen it in e-commerce, whatever. You scale too quickly, and then, you know, it only takes one bottleneck that you can't get over to make the whole thing crumble down. So in an agency perspective, you might be growing. Okay, but then because you've outgrown your resources and your capacity, your churn rate spikes. You know, people know each other. If you start doing bad service for one, that can start to snowball. You get a bad rep.
Well, we talked about a situation where obviously, like, again, that's something that has happened where it hurt me, because it's like, because we were growing quite quickly, it meant that we were getting churn and issues in place that were, you know, that it hurts, but you sometimes have to accept that you're going to get higher churn if you are growing
Yeah.
quicker in the short term. But then I think that is good because that exposes the problems. You kind of need that sometimes. If you're too conservative with it, it's going to be harder to see what the actual gaping issues are and what needs to be readdressed.
Yeah, big time. But again, like I'm a big believer in keeping that churn rate down, because if you can, build those really close relationships with your clients, okay, your team can understand their business much better. They can understand your clients' personalities. You can understand their challenges. You become more ingrained in their business. Their LTV is just much, much better. You're not having to invest as much in customer acquisition, sales and marketing, onboarding. Again, keeping that churn rate down.
Retention is way cheaper than acquisition.
All day long.
And people don't realise that either.
No, again,
people are too focused on that next sale, and it's like, look what you already fucking have.
Because it's fun.
Yeah.
Such a buzz. Like, it's a shot of dopamine getting that new sale or that new... And it's very hard to, like, say no. Like, we've closed our diaries for a little bit. Like, it's very hard to say no to, like, a sales call. Say no to new work because it's fun, it's exciting, it's possibilities. That's what it is, isn't it?
You'll probably find that actually helps you more because, like with relationships or something, people love what they can't have.
Yeah, exactly.
And normally that's like normally a sales strategy, isn't it? It's like we're only taking one more client on this month, but when it actually is the case, like we did that for you. We literally had to close our books for like 30, 60 days because we needed to just focus on what was going on at that point. And as well, to be fair, we just like couldn't hire quick enough for the growth, which I guess is obviously a good problem to have. But yeah. Yeah,
like it is really important. And that's why it's good to have someone, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a finance business partner, someone that's like not in it every day, because they can kind of see it and say, guys, like maybe we should slow down here. Maybe we should hit the brakes. Like there's nothing wrong with taking a break or like consolidating where you are. And then, getting that platform then for further growth. Because it's in stages, Business is never linear. You push, you learn, you grow. But you also have to stop and reflect. You have to reflect on what you did right, but most importantly, what you did wrong. And take those learnings and work with your business partners and your network and kind of go, right, what can we do to, improve it? Like we're all about, the 1% gains. Like if you can get 1% better every month, you're going to have a hell of a business in 3 years. And again, people just look, I was speaking earlier about like companies going public and stuff, like 12 months is just not long enough. You need to be looking, 24, 36 months down, where we're going to be. Imagine the progress. If we just get this 1% better every month, imagine where we're going to be in 24, 36 months with compounding and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously we're bringing on a new salesperson, and we were going to go someone like more bottom level, a couple of years experience maybe. And it was you that actually said you need to go someone higher, go into the higher brackets of salary, that you're going to get someone with 5, 6, 7 years experience, be able to make a lot more of an impact in the short term, and there's going to be far less training and time on your side building them out. I mean, what are your thoughts there? Because that's always we're kind of at a point now where we're trying to hire people more that are going to bring, teach us things, and rather than us having to teach them things, like they're going to come in with wealth and knowledge from areas that they know that we don't necessarily know, but obviously that comes more at a price. When you start out, you're probably more bringing in people at lower levels and growing with them. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, see, it all goes back, like with these things, there's always actually something else to think about. And it goes back to that thing about pricing and the value you deliver. Like, if you're a person that doesn't like charging or pricing, you always have to tell yourself, I need to charge this person this amount to give them the service they want. So if you're charging people enough money, then you can afford to hire better talent, better sales, better ops. That means your customers get better services. So it's a win-win for everyone, and it starts to snowball. And if you're a business owner and you're under pressure, if you can afford it, like, you're better off paying, a little bit more. It was a lesson we learned actually from a client. It's one of Shane's clients. And Shane was doing some work from his back early days. And I think Shane quoted something like, he actually runs an agency. Shane quoted him like 65 quid an hour, and he was like, no, I'll pay you 90. Shane was like, what? And Adrian was like, yeah, no, I don't pay anyone less than whatever an hour. And the reason being is, like, if I pick up the phone and I ring you, who are you going to get back to first?
True.
You're going to do the work right. If you pay a premium, you should, and I'll say you should get, a better return, a better service, a better value. And then by charging that, you can make sure you have the resources to deliver what you promised.
It's funny you say that. Like, we've actually had that with a client before as well, where, as we were like, yeah, this is the rate. And then, we were chatting about stuff like, there were a few objections, and then we were like, well, if we were able to sign you within X amount of time, we could probably do it for this rate for the first 3 to 6 months. And they actually came back and said, no, I don't want your service at a reduction, because I feel like if we are, if we're getting it on offer almost, or, at a reduced fee to your other clients, we're not going to be getting that same level of, potential time from that. I don't want from the outset your service being devalued, and as a result, you might not put in the same amount of effort or that extended effort that we need from you, or that ownership you need from us. So yeah, I thought that was a really interesting outlook on it.
Yeah, and like we don't do discounts. So like, and there's 2 reasons why, right? Number one is if someone comes to me and they want a discount, like depends on, let's say there's 2 companies, we might think about it, or we might give 3 months money back guarantee or something, because we believe in our service. But like, if someone comes to us and wants a discount, we won't give it, because it's all well and good then, but then the person walks away and goes, oh well, what further discount could I have got, or whatnot. And then from our perspective, we're not going to value them as much of a client as we do for someone that is paying what we quoted, because we believe in our services and we charge what we believe is a fair fee, and what we need to run a business and deliver the service that we want to deliver.
Yeah.
And again, like we don't lock people into contracts. We don't do that, because again, we only want to work with people that want to work with us. So yeah, that's kind of our strategy on the whole thing. But yeah, no, we don't do discounts. We can say like, look, if because our fees are higher, if you want have a 3 month where you can get your money back if you're not happy, or maybe a little discount for the first 1, 2, 3 months till we get things up and running. Yeah, depending, but in general, no, we don't, because we believe in our service, we believe in our value, we've proven it, and that's our strategy on it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I love that. So again, we've jumped around a lot, and yeah, it's been fucking valuable, to be fair. Probably one of the last things that I just wanted to talk about. Obviously, we spoke about earlier how me and my girlfriend broke up fairly recently. I mean, you were kind of talking about the situation with your fiance, who you've been together 11 years, was it?
11 years, yeah.
So talk about like relationships in business. Like, how have you managed that? What tips? You said to me that most people you work with that are business owners are single. What's the fucking secret sauce? And like, what's your like thoughts on that whole topic, that whole debate? Because there's always this thing that it's like, oh yeah, if you're fucking hustling, you shouldn't have anyone there. But then it's like, I don't necessarily agree with that. But how have you kind of fucking wavered that situation and been able to have such a strong relationship for so long?
Just a caveat on that, like most of our clients are like under 30, so. But yeah, no, a lot of them are single, and I think a lot of them, they're focusing on, their business and their goals, because we are obsessive. Like let's not lie about it. Like if you're running a business and you're scaling, like you're not working 9 to 5. You know what I mean? You are a bit obsessive. And let's say the ones, I suppose, that are in relationships tend to be in relationship with someone else that's in the business. And I'm just so lucky, man, to have Susan. It's fucking crazy, to be honest. Like, I think because we've grown up together, like we met working in a hotel while we were in college. We're from the same area. We've kind of gone through this journey together, and she understands, and she runs her own business as well. So, I understand and she understands that if one of us is busy or is occupied, it's nothing to do with like me or her. We're like occupied with the business, and we understand that. And it comes back to why we're doing it. We're trying to build a future, build freedom for ourselves, be happy. But at the same time, you have to make time for each other. So like, I was very bad at being together, like, going for dinner or going for a walk on my phone. So now I just try, if we go for a walk or go for, and just leave my phone in the car.
I think that's a great idea, because if you know it's in your pocket, you're almost like giving it daggers. Yeah. It's like I forgot the name of it, but it's almost like you think it's vibrated when it has.
Oh, yeah, like a ghost ring.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's actually really good advice. And to be fair, like, I kind of thought that recently when I went on a holiday with some friends. And it was the first holiday that I kind of went on where I was like, look, I'm going to actually turn all notifications off. I'm not going to respond to emails. I'm not going to respond on Slack. You know, I'm not going to be checking up on things. I'm going to trust my team. I'm going to go away and actually just enjoy this holiday and disconnect fully. And it was like genuinely one of the best things I could have done. I feel like, and I've kind of made a tweet about this. I said, you know, you can go away, you can travel and work, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like if you go on a holiday and you're kind of like 30% working on your phone, checking shit, you don't actually. If you're there for a holiday, go for an actual holiday. Go to disconnect. If you're there to work and like work remotely, that's obviously a different story. But I feel like if you're doing it that way, you're going for a holiday, but then you do a bit of work and also try and disconnect, you're never going to fully disconnect, and you're also not going to work at your optimum level. So it's like, just do one or the other, I feel like, and actually optimize on that. And it was the best thing I could have done, because for the first time ever, I normally go away on a holiday, I don't come back that like recharged, because I haven't like left the business. But this time I really did, and I came back like so motivated to get back into it.
Yeah, like, one thing I love to do, especially if you're stressed, and this is a tip for any business owner, and look, some people think this stuff is like cheesy or cringy, whatever, but if I'm under pressure, what I do is, you know, go for a nice walk, and I put on, you know, like those motivational videos on YouTube, and it's just like kind of reframes your mind. But one I love listening to is a guy called Jim Rohn. He's like the OG of like, you know, motivational kind of and self, you know, like self-development and stuff. And one thing he says, like, you know, when you're at work, and when you're at home, be at home. So, you know, if you're in the office or you're on a laptop, like, don't be thinking about like home stuff.
Yeah.
Get your work done, you know, turn off your notifications, you know, get it done. And like vice versa, if you're at home in the evenings with your friends or your family or whatever it is, even if you're on your own, like, you know, do not be thinking about work, because there's nothing you can do. You know, it's just a waste of time. So yeah, like, I think the thing is, like, as a business owner, you probably overthink the importance of you being available. And it's all about communication. Like, I'm sure if I told you, you know, I'm going away for a week on holidays, you want, you know, I'm not available, you'd be like, yeah, go enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it's just about telling and letting people know.
Giving trust to your team as well.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes if you micromanage everything, which I probably used to do to an extent, you know, people are like in a bit of a box. You got to give people that opportunity to make their own decisions and be entrepreneurial as well. Like, I really push for people to be entrepreneurial. If they want to try something in the business, like one of our culture pillars is about, you know, don't be afraid to fail. You know, genuinely, I want people to fail and learn from it. Try things in a business, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, amazing. But I love the fact that you just even wanted to try something that's different and not just kind of followed what the norm is. Or, you know, I love when someone in a business goes against the grain, and for me, that's like touches my heart in a way, because it's like someone cares more about just the day to day than just kind of following the kind of following the river around, or, you know, the stream. They've actually wanted to go off path and try something that probably has given them a bit more, you know, mental stress, or because it's a risk, right? Yeah. So I really love that, and I really, really push for that.
Yeah, I think it's about like letting your team fail with guardrails. So, you know, it's like giving them the freedom that, you know, they can make small mistakes, but not on this like going to be ultra critical. You know, and you have to fail. Like, you know, as I said to a client recently, like if you feel like everything is under control, as a startup, you're not pushing hard enough.
Yeah.
If you're not making mistakes, you know, and again, this thing goes back to value. Like, if you're providing so much value for your client, right? And, you know, Hormozy talks about, you know, give $100,000 value for $10,000, because then people are going to scream from the rooftops about you. Another thing is, like, if you're giving so much value and you care, if you do make a mistake, you know, everyone makes mistakes, but if you make a mistake and you rectify it and you fix it and you're proactive, I tend clients kind of just forget about it, you know, because yeah, you made a mistake, but you care, you're always giving value, you fixed it.
Yeah. Fact.
What about it? Like,
yeah, I completely agree, man. Well, I think that kind of rounds it up. I think we've had this has been so valuable. There's been so many moments. I always have this thing in the pods where in my head, I'm like, yeah, that'll be a clip, that'll be a clip, that'll be a clip. And there's been so many of those moments today where I think you've brought so much value, and, you know, really appreciate you coming on, and yeah, really, really appreciate the time, bro. So where can people, if they want to get in touch, if they want to have a chat, where can they find you?
Yeah, again, this might sound crazy, but we don't even have a website or anything like that. We've literally...
You need to come to us when you do.
Yes, oh, look at this guy. Never stops. Yeah, so check out Instagram. So we're currently doing a rebrand, but you can find us at The Irish Business Advisor. Terrible name, I know. Yeah, you just drop us a message there. Yeah, but we are building a website, I promise. We're getting it done. Doing a rebrand. The new name is Growth & Co. So
Oh,
again,
sick. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so there you go.
Nice.
Exclusive. So basically, our whole concept is like, you know, as I said earlier, like, we have a motto, like, you know, like, as you grow, we grow. So even like our fees are tied to like your business growing. So that puts us on the same trajectory. So we're vested in seeing your business grow. So that's what the whole thing is about: growing together, pushing each other, taking risks. Yeah, that's where we're at. So check out Instagram, The Irish Business Advisor with an E, or just hit Lucas up and he'll give you my email.
Yeah, exactly. I'll put the details in
Cool.
the description, whatever. Obviously, if you're listening on Spotify, head over to YouTube. But yeah, really appreciate it, Seamus. So if you enjoyed this, give it a like. You know all the shit. Favorite, share, subscribe to us on YouTube at Unwind Pod. We're also on Spotify at Unwind Pod, or type in my name, Lucas, Loukas, and it will come up. And yeah, really hope everyone enjoyed that, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.